right, Ryan Reynolds here for Mint Mobile. Are you looking for a beach read this summer? May I suggest your big wireless bill? It's got suspense, mystery, a slightly flat emotional arc, and a shocking twist where you realize you've been overpaying the entire time. Fortunately, though, Mint's story is better. Every plan, $15 a month, even unlimited. That's it. Happy ending, zero tears. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3 months, $90 for 6 months, or $180 for 12-month plan required. $15 per month equivalent. Taxes and fees extra. Initial plan term only. Greater than 50 gigabytes may slow when network is busy. See terms.
Feel your best and amplify your everyday look with Thrive Cosmetics. Go to thrivecosmetics.com/shine26 for an exclusive offer of 20% off your first order. That's Thrive Cosmetics, CAUSEMETICS.com/shine26.
And away we go, episode 1368 of the Al Galdi podcast. It is Friday, July 17th, 2026. 1 week from today is July 24th, the day on which rookies report for 2026 Washington Commanders training camp. We are a week away from Washington Commanders training camp. The 2026 NFL offseason is almost over. We can almost say that we have survived the offseason. I can almost say that I have survived a beach vacation with my family. We have another few days to go. We go to Fenwick Island in Delaware. I, on this vacation, have watched episode 1 of season 3 of Quarterback on Netflix. I have not seen the rest of season 3, which of course features our quarterback, Washington's Jayden Daniels, as one of the 4 profiled NFL quarterbacks. But I have seen episode 1. I did enjoy it. Quarterback is well done. Now, I don't know if I'm going to watch the rest of the season because, honestly, I'm not that excited about reliving Daniels' injury-mangled 2025 season, but I did like the behind-the-scenes stuff with Daniels, including a photo shoot for Sports Illustrated, a photo shoot during which he initially was so quiet that the photographer didn't realize that Daniels was the subject of the shoot. That was funny. We had episode 1 also got a good bit from Daniel's mom, business manager, and agent, Regina Jackson. I would recommend the episode, but again, I'm not exactly super pumped about reliving Daniel's 2025 season. Hello and welcome to this Friday installment of the Al Galdi podcast, in which we talk Washington Commanders on every episode, no matter the time of year. Coming up on the show, a lot on our football team. Next segment, discussion about offensive coordinator David Blough of comments on the podcast NFL Spotlight with Ari Meirov, including new details on Blough's rise to offensive coordinator. We learned some stuff from this interview. The following segment, analysis of the latest intel on the saga of San Francisco 49ers receiver Brandon Aiyuk, including ESPN NFL insider Adam Schefter on the Adam Schefter Podcast, saying of Aiyuk, quote, "I honestly believe that he's scared off teams like Washington," end quote. Is Washington out on Aiyuk? And on the show, we'll give you a breakdown of various recent items with the Washington Nationals and Baltimore Orioles as the 2026 MLB All-Star Break ends on Friday, including the Nats signing the player who they took with the number 11 overall pick in the 2026 MLB First-Year Player Draft, second baseman Chris Hacopian out of Texas A&M University. The Nats placing a position player on an injured list for the first time in the 2026 season. The Nats reportedly promoting catching prospect Harry Ford from Triple-A Rochester to the majors, and Orioles relief pitcher Keegan Akin being done for the season. Before we get to feedback, our Washington Wizards, as expected, did shut down multiple key players during the team's 5-game run in NBA Summer League 2026 in Las Vegas. This is how Summer League usually works, but A.J. Debonsa played in just 2 games. Will Riley played in just 2 games. Trey Johnson played in just 1 game. Jameer Watkins played in just 1 game. Also, the Washington Capitals, they on Tuesday afternoon announced having signed the player who they on June 26 took with the number 18 overall pick in the 2026 NHL Draft, forward Oliver Savanto, a 3-year entry-level contract. Savanto is just 17. He's expected to be loaned to a team in his native Finland for the 2026-2027 season. You can hit me up on X at Al Galdi. You can email me the Al Galdi podcast at yahoo.com. You can reach me via writing a review of the podcast on Apple Podcasts. You can write about whatever you want. want, and they'll read what you write if you give the podcast a 5-star rating as we march toward 2,000 ratings of the podcast. But what we're looking for are 5-star ratings. They help out the podcast a lot, and we thank you very much. Email from Sterling Porter, CPA, on the Washington Commanders' new Hellraiser alternate uniform featuring a helmet that on each side has a burgundy W and gold trim with a spear going through the W, as spear imagery is back for the franchise. We on this past Monday's show, episode 1367, talked about the new uniforms and speaking with Washington Commanders insider and Washington Wizards insider Ben Standig of Last Man Standing on Substack about the state of being a Commanders fan, as Monday was the 6-year anniversary of the Washington Redskins retiring the Redskins name and retiring the Redskins logo. Right, Sterling? Hello, Al. Hope you and your family are doing well. The attached article discusses how some in the Native American community have called the new Hellraiser logo inappropriate and disappointing. I thought the ownership group explained that this wasn't about Native American imagery, but more related to the gladiator culture. Correct me if I am wrong on this. I also was thinking about the previous guest you had, I can't remember his name, who noted how the Chiefs have a good relationship with the Native American community, hence why they can use the tomahawk chop and spear imagery. Could it be the Dan Snyder era still leaves a bad taste for some in the Native American community still? Thoughts? As always, keep up the good work. Thank you very much for that, Sterling. So the guest was Ryan Wetzel, the grandson of Walter Blackie Wetzel, who designed the Redskins logo of the proud Native American warrior. Ryan, in December 2024, was on this podcast on episode 968. Ryan is a major advocate for Washington going back to that logo designed by his grandfather. And among the many items that Ryan and I got into was how Ryan feels about the Kansas City Chiefs being allowed to do what they do. The arrowhead chop, the chant, the banging of the drum, all of that is allowed by the NFL and is willingly shown by the NFL's television partners. And, Washington had to retire that logo designed by Ryan's grandfather. You can imagine how Ryan feels. Well, here's what Ryan said about how he feels about the Chiefs being allowed to do what they do.
Well, the thing is I have a little bit of connections to the Chiefs side. Indian country small, and what the Kansas City Chiefs have done is they brought in tribal members that can go out and defend kind of that whole situation. They're educating the non-natives and natives about the history of the Chiefs and who they were. And the tomahawk chop is something that, I believe is something we can educate on. And that's what Kansas City Chiefs are doing. They have that department. They have those people that are actually tribal members hired on that are helping educate the communities through and through, nationally, internationally. And that's how you do it. That's how you combat these things. You bring in the people that are descendants from these traditional cultural backgrounds, and you say, hey, this is what this is all about, and this is why it's allowed and supported. What a beautiful, beautiful thing to have a team named the Chiefs. As a Native American, as a Blackfeet man, I take pride in that. I think that is the coolest thing around outside of the Redskins nation.
Okay, that right there was new to me at the time. I did not know that the Chiefs have relationships with and work with tribal members, and that is the way to do this. That's what the Redskins, unfortunately, did not do for way too much of their time as the Redskins. The group that went public with its unhappiness with Washington having spear imagery on the new Hellraiser alternate uniform was the Association on American Indian Affairs, or AAIA. Now, I'll be honest, I have no idea if this is a group that is sincere and is well-intentioned and that does a lot of great work, or if this is a group that is fraudulent and doesn't do much beyond lining its own pockets and engages in grandstanding. I don't know. But it is a funny deal with the spear imagery. Spear imagery, of course, isn't exclusive to Native American culture, and yet we all know what Washington going back to spear imagery is about. The Redskins' primary uniform for the 1965 through 1968 seasons included a burgundy helmet with a spear with a feather. Washington, in the months leading up to the reveal of the new uniforms this past April 15th, reintroduced spear imagery in the team's branding, but with the idea of the name Commanders being about a commander being a leader of warriors. Technically not wrong, but of course, this is really convenient logic. And this is part of a strategy that I have discussed and that I do find to be smart. The Josh Harris Group strategy of, okay, maybe we can't have the name Redskins, but we can do all that we can to look and feel like the Redskins. And so we have these new uniforms, which are very similar to the team's uniforms from the Redskins' glory days of the 1982 through 1992 seasons. And we have spear imagery back for the franchise. And we have the logo of the proud Native American warrior being displayed in multiple parts of Northwest Stadium and no longer being censored by the NFL. The Harris Group, with this issue of the name/brand, has taken a very methodical, measured, tactical approach, and slowly but surely progress is being made. Now, the Washington Commanders on Thursday morning announced their uniform schedule for the 2026 regular season. Just 2 games for that Hillraiser alternate uniform, 6 games for the primary white, 9 games for the primary burgundy. So the team clearly does prefer the primary burgundy. Email from Michael King on this past Monday night's MLB Home Run Derby airing on Netflix as opposed to ESPN, which had carried the Home Run Derby for decades, writes Mike. I couldn't find the Home Run Derby on my DirecTV, but I was a little late and just figured that I missed the Derby. Oh well. But then I see that it was streamed on Netflix. Why is baseball so stupid with this stuff? Why does baseball want less viewers? Baseball is not the NFL for most people. Anyway, no big deal, but certainly irritating. Always listening. Thank you for that, Mike. So here's what's interesting about MLB airing the Home Run Derby on Netflix instead of ESPN. More households in this country now have Netflix than have ESPN, and actually, this isn't even close. The idea that having the Home Run Derby air on a streaming service in Netflix exposed the Derby to a more limited audience as compared to the Derby airing on ESPN actually is wrong. Consider this from media reporter Austin Karp of Sports Business Journal in a post on X this past Monday afternoon. Quote, "Not for nothing, but Netflix is in around 90 million U.S. homes now, which is around 30 to 40 million more than most linear cable TV channels carrying major sports these days. That being said, complaints are inevitable." End quote. ESPN still is the number one sports media company, but ESPN in recent years has lost a lot of viewers and a lot of influence, in large part due to the changing media landscape, right, including cord cutting. But yeah, that stat is something. Netflix now is in around 90 million U.S. homes. That's around 30 million to 40 million more homes than most linear cable TV channels carrying major sports these days. MLB in November 2025 announced new 3-year media rights agreements with Netflix, NBC, Universal, and ESPN. The deal with Netflix, a 3-year deal reportedly worth about $50 million annually, and is a package for special events like the Home Run Derby. Hey, please consider subscribing to this podcast if you're not already doing that. Subscribing to the podcast costs nothing. Make sure that you never miss an episode and helps out the podcast a lot. And if you're already subscribing, thank you. Life insurance. You and your family hopefully never need it, but not having it can make a tragic situation even worse. We have a family friend who lost her husband to cancer. Him not having life insurance made the ensuing years even more difficult. Well, Ethos makes getting life insurance fast and easy, 100% online. You can get a quote in seconds, apply in minutes, and get same-day coverage. There's no medical exam. You'll just answer a few simple health questions. You can get up to $3 million in coverage. Some policies are as low as $30 a month. You'll get your lowest rate from Ethos's network of trusted carriers. And know this, Ethos has a rating of 4.8 out of 5 stars on Trustpilot with over 4,000 reviews. Take 10 minutes today to get covered with life insurance through Ethos. Get your free quote at ethos.com/Al Galdi. That's ethos.com/Al Galdi. Ethos.com/Al Galdi. Application times may vary. Rates may vary. Trustpilot rating as of June 1st, 2025.
Some days you just want to amplify your everyday look. Like when you want the look of false lashes without the extra effort, reach for Thrive Cosmetics Liquid Lash Volumizer Mascara. Or when you want all eyes on your smile, keep Empower Gloss Ultra Glossy Lip Serum in your bag. It's a burst of 24-hour hydration that smooths like a serum, shines like a gloss, and can be worn sheer or layered. You'll always look and feel your best with Thrive Cosmetics. Plus, every product is 100% vegan, cruelty-free, and made with clean, skin-loving ingredients that work with your skin, not against it. Amplify your everyday. Go to thrivecosmetics.com/shine26 for an exclusive offer of 20% off your first order. That's Thrive Cosmetics, CAUSEMETICS.com/shine26.
2026 Washington Commanders training camp is coming. Rookies report on July 24th, veterans on July 28th. Football season is coming. If you would like to grow your business or practice, consider advertising on this podcast. We're offering great deals in honor of the coming football season. Podcast advertising is very affordable and works. Put the power of the pod to work for you. Get your message out there to thousands of successful people in the Washington, D.C. area. Grow your business or practice. We'd love to have you on board. Email us to see what we can do for you. The email address is thealgaldypodcast@yahoo.com. So this episode of the podcast is for Friday, July 17th. As mentioned, rookies report for 2026 Washington Commanders training camp in a week, Friday, July 24th. And one of the top storylines for camp will be Washington's new offensive coordinator, David Blough, who was on the podcast NFL Spotlight with Ari Meirov in an episode that came out this past Tuesday. Blough, on the podcast, revealed new details on his rise to offensive coordinator. The David Blough story: he was a quarterback for Purdue for the 2014 through 2018 seasons, entered the NFL in May 2019 as an undrafted free agent with the Cleveland Browns. He, over his time as an NFL player, the 2019 through 2023 seasons, had the following notable tenures with offensive coaches. So Blough was on the Minnesota Vikings practice squad during the 2022 season, working with Vikings head coach and former Redskins offensive coordinator Kevin O'Connell. The Arizona Cardinals on December 14th, 2022 announced having signed Blough off the Vikings practice squad. He was the Cardinals starting quarterback for their final two games in the 2022 regular season. The Cardinals head coach at the time was Cliff Kingsbury, who was fired by the Cardinals in January 2023 and then, of course, served as Washington's offensive coordinator for the last two seasons. And Blough was on the Detroit Lions practice squad during the 2023 season, working with then Lions offensive coordinator Ben Johnson, who now, of course, is the Chicago Bears head coach. Washington, on February 15th, 2024, announced the hiring of Blough as assistant quarterbacks coach. Washington, this past January 6th, parted with offensive coordinator Cliff Kingsbury. And Washington, just 4 days later, January 10th, announced having promoted David Blough from assistant quarterbacks coach to offensive coordinator. So quite the meteoric rise for Blough, who in 2 weeks, July 31st, will turn just 31 years old. He, at 30, became the youngest person to be hired as Washington offensive coordinator since the Redskins in January 2014 announced having promoted 28-year-old tight ends coach Sean McVay to offensive coordinator. There had not been much on the specifics of Blough's rise as a coach, but we on NFL Spotlight with Ari Meirov in this episode that came out this past Tuesday had this back and forth between Meirov and Blough.
About that foot in the door moment, the transition to coaching. Your playing career ends in 2023. You were on the Lions practice squad that year. That was the year they made the NFC Championship game. How does that door open where Dan Quinn is hired in Washington to become the head coach, and now you're the assistant quarterbacks coach, and that dream and thought about becoming a coach that you had back in Purdue is now reality here?
Sure. Man, I think there's a lot of different connections that play into it. And like how everybody kind of talks and is able to, hopefully pass along a good word. And so I had shared with even, Lance Newmark, who's the assistant general manager here in Washington with us. Hey, he knew I was getting ready to be done coaching. Getting ready to be done playing and get into coaching. And he had a great relationship with Adam. And then, I had a great phone call and interview with DQ and then flew up and, DQ has always had a vision for that assistant quarterback spot, right? So we hired Danny Etling in that role. He's had a lot of great coaches come through the quarterback room underneath his time as head coach in Atlanta, and he's always had a vision that, hey, that's a former player with somebody who wants to grow and wants to do more, or somebody that he sees a lot of growth potential in, and so I feel like I fit that mold, and then from there it was his intentionality about my development, right? Like when I spoke with him on my interview, he said, hey, we had Jason Garrett in Miami back in the early 2000s who went from playing to coaching right into coordinating to getting his opportunity, and so he sold that to me as the pitch, and then backed it up with his plan for me. Man, every day that, I guess, we're going into year 3 now, 2.5 years later, every day he has backed that up with my development.
So I want to ask you about that because Dan Quinn has been so big for your coaching career. So even though your title was assistant quarterbacks coach, it sounds like your responsibilities continue to grow. So what are some of those opportunities that Dan gave you behind the scenes that helped you prepare for where you are today?
Yeah, I think, going into the second year, because there had been some other potential opportunities come up after our first season with the NFC Championship run and helping Jaden in his, grow into the season that he had. And he said, hey, we're going to keep you here in Washington. Like, we're going to shut anything else down. We're going to keep you here in Washington. But with that, I'm going to give you more responsibility. So when it came to evaluations, it was evaluations of receivers and running backs and tight ends, not just quarterbacks. When it came to practice opportunities, he allowed me to call the 2-minute drill for the scout team in the practice. So you get used to having the mic in your hand. And, every other week he's like, hey, you're going to present on ball security. Like, you get up in front of the whole team, coach the whole team. And he does that with not only me, that's just how he develops coaches in Washington. And he's always said this. He's trying to create the best environment to play and coach NFL football. Like, the best environment in professional sports is what he dreams of. So he's trying to develop me just as much as he's trying to, help Owe come along as a pass rusher, So it's pretty special to just see his intentionality for every single person in our organization.
So interesting to hear about this development plan for coaches that Washington head coach Dan Quinn has. Now, we have known about the plan for a while, but hearing the specifics from David Blough right there, I thought that was really good. We heard Blough mention Danny Etling. Washington, this past February 10th, announced having hired Danny Etling as assistant quarterbacks coach. And Danny Etling may well be the new David Blough, a young former quarterback who just got into coaching, but who is viewed as an up-and-coming coach. Washington hiring Etling as assistant quarterbacks coach marked his first coaching job in the NFL or college football, as was the case with Blough. Etling was a quarterback for Purdue for the 2013 and 2014 seasons. Sound familiar, right? Blough was a quarterback for Purdue for the 2014 through 2018 seasons. Etling was a quarterback for LSU for the 2015 through 2017 season, sat out the 2015 season due to NCAA transfer rules, and then it was LSU's QB1 for the 2016 and 2017 seasons. Etling was taken by the New England Patriots in the 7th round of the 2018 NFL Draft, spent time with multiple NFL teams, but never played in an NFL regular season game. However, he was with the Atlanta Falcons during the 2019 season, for the 2020 offseason, and for part of 2020 Falcons training camp. Dan Quinn was the Falcons head coach during all of this. And so much of this Dan Quinn development plan for coaches is rooted in where he went wrong as Falcons head coach. Quinn was the Falcons head coach February 2015 to October 2020. His overall regular season record as Falcons head coach was 43-42. Former Redskins offensive coordinator Kyle Shanahan was the Falcons offensive coordinator January 2015 to February 2017 when he was hired as San Francisco 49ers head coach. Quinn's regular season record as Falcons head coach with Kyle was 29-19. Quinn's regular season record as Falcons head coach without Kyle was 14-23. Quinn, as a head coach with a defensive background, did not adequately replace his well-regarded offensive coordinator. That was a harsh lesson for Quinn to learn, but he learned that lesson. Now, in that cut that I just played, also heard David Blough reference the 2025 offseason, during which he was a hot commodity. One season into his coaching career, David Blough became a hot commodity, so much so that Washington in the 2025 offseason made it so that Blough remained with the team. We, on February 2nd, 2025, had reports that Blough was staying with Washington, at least in part, because the Commanders had prevented him from interviewing with other NFL teams. On February 2nd, 2025, had reports that Washington had denied the New York Jets' request to interview Blough for their quarterbacks coach job. And Commanders insider John Keim of ESPN, he on February 2nd, 2025, reported that Washington also denied the Chicago Bears' request to interview Blough for their passing game coordinator job and denied the Jacksonville Jaguars' request to interview Blough for their quarterbacks coach job. Washington in the 2025 offseason would not let Blough leave. But as he detailed in what we just heard, also gave him increased responsibility. And then this offseason, Blough was a candidate for the Detroit Lions offensive coordinator job. NFL insider Ian Rappaport of NFL Network, he on January 6th in a post on X had this, quote, "The Lions have started off their OC search with an intriguing name, David Blough, a former Detroit QB. Blough was assistant QB's coach with the Commanders, but did the QB coach job after Tavita Pritchard left. A sneaky hot name," end quote. And just 4 days later, Washington announced having promoted Blough to offensive coordinator. As for what it was like when that promotion happened, we had this exchange with David Blough on NFL Spotlight with Ari Meirov.
Okay, let's talk about just this offseason. January 9, 2026. You get the news from Dan, you're going to become the offensive coordinator. Take me back to that day, the emotions of that, finding out like, holy cow, I'm an offensive coordinator for this team, which has a very, very special quarterback, which not many first-time offensive coordinators get to have.
Sure. Man, I overwhelmed with gratitude, truthfully, for DQ and his belief in me. And then looking at the broader spectrum of it, you sit there and you think, okay, where do we go from here? And at that point, the creative brain starts rolling. Okay, what's the best I've ever seen it done? And different experiences come to mind. What are some things that I know that we have to have that Jaden does really well? And then how do we take this, what he's shown that he can do in 2 years, and take it to the next level? And so at that point, like all of us do, is we pull from our experiences. So I've been very fortunate, man, to have Dan Quinn pour into me and show me what it looks like to treat people, in the highest regard. I was very fortunate to play under Dan Campbell and his mentality and mindset. I was very fortunate to see the scheme with which Ben Johnson implemented, and Cliff Kingsbury and Kevin O'Connell in a season where we were 10-0 in one-score games in Minnesota in 22. And so I got to pull from all these different experiences of, I just listed 5 of the best coaches over the last few years. And I had got to see them all in those, respective seasons. And I start thinking, okay, what do I want it to look like for the 26 Commanders with a somewhat new coaching staff, and we'll have a new core of players. And then you start building, man. You start chunking, you look at it and you're like, man, how are we ever going to get to the finished product? And kind of the result I came to is like, I don't know if we are. Like, we're going to take a chunk out of it every day, but this thing is going to keep growing and evolving as we go. And hopefully, I read Tom Brady say it the other day, hopefully we're playing our best game of the season and the best version of ourselves the last game of the year. And so that's what I'm most excited about. And what's been really special is I've had this vision for it. Sure. But the players and the coaches have had the ownership to kind of, in a short amount of time, take it to the next level. So their buy-in and support and belief in what I've been preaching has, not gotten noticed and is what's driving the whole thing right now.
So some insight into the thought process of David Blough in putting his offense together. We have been saying that indications are that he's going with a Ben Johnson-style offense. But, of course, the offense almost certainly is going to feature elements of the offenses of the other high-level offensive coaches with whom Blough has worked. Kevin O'Connell, Cliff Kingsbury, etc. Speaking of Kingsbury, the more that time passes, the more that I do wonder this. How much of Washington parting with Kingsbury was the team's displeasure with Kingsbury versus how much of Washington parting with Kingsbury was the team not wanting to lose David Blough? Like, if Washington didn't have Blough, would the team still have parted with Kingsbury? Something to think about. But Washington promoted Blough to offensive coordinator a mere 4 days after parting with Kingsbury. If promoting Blough to offensive coordinator wasn't preordained, boy, it sure was not some far-fetched thought. I mean, a 4-day offensive coordinator search. That was it. That's not much of a search. And understand, I'm not bothered by that. I like David Blough. I'm excited about David Blough. But how much of the team parting with Cliff Kingsbury was the team not wanting to lose Blough? For comparison's sake, it was this past November 10th that Dan Quinn announced having taken over as Washington defensive coordinator, but the team did not announce the new defensive coordinator, did not announce the hiring of Minnesota Vikings defensive passing game coordinator / defensive backs coach Durante Jones as defensive coordinator until January 30th. So Washington's offensive coordinator vacancy lasted for 4 days. Washington's defensive coordinator vacancy lasted for nearly 3 months. A big difference. Something else that stood out to me from David Blough on NFL Spotlight with Ari Meirov was Blough on when he truly knew that Washington had something special in quarterback Jaden Daniels. So take a listen to this exchange.
That first season as a coach, such a magical 2024 year. You're in the quarterback room for one of the best rookie seasons we've ever seen with Jaden. When you first get to be around him, what stands out right away? And when did you realize, okay, people kind of think we're in a rebuilding mode, but this might be a little bit different?
There's one moment very specifically I remember. It was our first rookie mini camp practice after we took him. And when you cut on the tape evaluating those, top quarterbacks, top kind of 7 quarterbacks of the 24 class, you're like, man, this guy might be the only one who has the ability to flip the game with his arms and his legs, like in a real way. And there was something spectacular, like every time you watch the tape. And he comes to us, with the second pick and rookie mini camp, and he's taking his 3-step drop, 1 hitch, and he's throwing checkdowns to the back. And I'm sitting there like, okay, he does it the first time. Then he hits a seam. Then he throws a stop route on the outside. And I'm like, man, somebody has really helped develop the mind of this young man. And he goes 12 for 12 and 7 on 7. And I'm standing back there like, does anybody realize, like, this is my first time on the grass as a coach. And I'm really thankful because I got to be there and see Baker, as a rookie who was a number 1 pick. I got to see Matthew after that and Jared after that. And then Kirk Cousins, who, played at the highest level and still does. And Kyler Murray. And so I see all these number 1 picks. And we're sitting out there on this rookie mini camp. He goes 12 for 12 and, he doesn't even bat an eye. He comes back. He's looking for coaching points from Tavita and Cliff and myself. I'm like, yeah, we're going to be just fine. And, he has that hunger to get better every day. Like if you can impart something on him that will help him grow as a quarterback, you got him. And that's exactly what, my role is now, is to try to get us to. And it was part of why we hired DJ Williams, who had been around Drew Brees in New Orleans and Penix the last few years, and Danny Etling, who backed up Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson in his career. Like, we wanted to kind of collectively pull from our experiences of being around Matthew and Jared and Drew and Tom and Aaron to impart the wisdom that we've seen now on this young man to help him grow and become the player that we know he can be. I'm really excited for people to see him going into year 3.
Yeah, big upcoming season for Jaden Daniels. Had the all-time great 2024 rookie season, had the injury-ruined 2025 season, the 2026 season, his third NFL season, his age 26 season, his final season before becoming contract extension eligible in Washington's 2027 offseason. Hey, make sure that you check out the BGO Blind Pig podcast, the official podcast of BGObsession.com, a terrific Washington Commanders forum. Anyone can join, and BGO Blind Pig essentially is the forum in podcast form, a roundtable discussion about the Washington Commanders. It's like you and a bunch of your buddies who are Washington fans are hanging out and talking about the team. The conversation is smart and fun and respectful. You can find the BGO Blind Pig podcast on YouTube and on any major podcast provider. I was fortunate enough to be on a recent episode of the podcast. Make BGObsession.com the home for your burgundy and gold obsession, and make the BGO Blind Pig podcast part of your Washington Commanders podcast rotation. Life insurance. You and your family hopefully never need it, but not having it can make a tragic situation even worse. We have a family friend who lost her husband to cancer. Him not having life insurance made the ensuing years even more difficult. Well, Ethos makes getting life insurance fast and easy, 100% online. You can get a quote in seconds, apply in minutes, and get same-day coverage. There's no medical exam. You'll just answer a few simple health questions. You can get up to $3 million in coverage. Some policies are as low as $30 a month. You'll get your lowest rate from Ethos' network of trusted carriers. And know this, Ethos has a rating of 4.8 out of 5 stars on Trustpilot with over 4,000 reviews. Take 10 minutes today to get covered with life insurance through Ethos. Get your free quote at ethos.com/Al Galdi. That's ethos.com/Al Galdi. Ethos.com/Al Galdi. Application times may vary. Rates may vary. Trustpilot rating as of June 1st, 2025.
From lashes for days with the viral Liquid Lash Extensions Mascara to lift and color from their brilliant eye brightener, Thrive Cosmetics is the go-to for amplifying everyday looks. Plus, every product is 100% vegan, cruelty-free, and made with clean, skin-loving ingredients that work with your skin. Amplify your everyday. Go to thrivecosmetics.com/shine26 for an exclusive offer of 20% off your first order. That's Thrive Cosmetics, CAUSEMETICS.com/shine26.
So as we now are a week away from the start of 2026 Washington Commanders training camp, is the Brandon Aiyuk saga as it relates to Washington essentially over? San Francisco 49ers receiver Brandon Aiyuk, for a second time in 2 off seasons, has campaigned to join Washington. The campaign this offseason has featured this intense social media onslaught that got going in June. Has that social media onslaught turned off Washington to Aiyuk? Might it already have been turned off to Aiyuk? ESPN NFL insider Adam Schefter on his podcast, the Adam Schefter Podcast, in an installment that came out this past Tuesday, quote, "I honestly believe that he's scared off teams like Washington," end quote. Now, that was opinion more than reporting, but Schefter is arguably the number one NFL insider. I would consider what he said an informed opinion, not random opinion. Here was Schefter on his podcast, the Adam Schefter Podcast, in an installment that came out this past Tuesday, and you'll hear his producer, Dan Stanzik, as a part of this.
I think when you talk to people around the league, there are a couple of observations that come up with this. Number one, I think they're concerned about the guy because these videos, they come on and he's criticizing his former college teammate, Jaden Daniels. Everybody thought he was going to Washington. It was set up for him to go to Washington. And it certainly looks like he's alienated Washington with his comments. We've got Jaden Daniels firing back on social media, Brandon Aiyuk coming out. Brandon Aiyuk did not help his case with the Washington Commanders, aside from the fact that he's still under contract to the 49ers. He's on the reserve, did not report list. He would have to be reinstated. He had to apply for reinstatement. Now, he could just apply to the NFL for reinstatement, and the 49ers would have to release him. They don't want him around. And if he showed up at the 49ers complex, which he said he won't do, they'd have to release him. But the 49ers hold his rights right now, and he is not allowed to go sign with another team if another team is even willing to sign him until he's released from that list. And only Brandon Aiyuk can force that issue. And so far, to date, as we record this on Tuesday morning, July 4th, he has not done that. Now, again, we're getting closer to camp. If he wants to play, then he'll force that issue. That's the other thing that I've heard a couple of times and talking to a couple of front offices. They're like, does this guy even want to play? And I can't answer that. Only Brandon Aiyuk can. But I can tell you that teams have raised that question, because why hasn't he forced himself off that list? Why isn't he looking more actively for a team? Why isn't he gainfully employed right now? Where was he all last year not showing up? Does he want to play? That's a question that teams have asked, and only Brandon Aiyuk himself can answer that. So there are some questions that'll have to be resolved if he wants to play here in the coming days and weeks, but that's certainly a major question. People are concerned about the guy, and people are wondering whether he does want to play.
Yeah, it sounds like the ball is in his court. If he wants to get released, all he has to do is show up, he gets released. The question then becomes, Schefter, and you may not have a good answer to this because who knows, teams will want to see if he wants to play football, if it's willing to bring him in, but what would the market be for him? Are there teams that would be interested in his services, or is it at this point, you can't really tell?
I honestly believe that he's scared off teams like Washington. Yeah. I mean, I think they're looking at these social media posts, repeated social media posts where he's blasting the Niners, where he's criticizing Jaden Daniels, and they're saying, is this the kind of guy that we want to bring in right now and have a part of our franchise? Is this what we want to do? And my guess, more often than not, would be no. Now, there might be a team at a certain point that's willing to do that, but that market right now, at best, is going to be soft.
Okay, so a lot there from Adam Schefter on Brandon Aiyuk. The most significant item was Schefter saying of Aiyuk, quote, I honestly believe that he's scared off teams like Washington, end quote. But Schefter also said that there around the NFL is concern about the mental health of Brandon Aiyuk. And Schefter indicated that the belief around the NFL is that Instagram back and forth between Aiyuk and Washington quarterback Jaden Daniels on July 4th was not just two friends kidding around, that at least some of that was legit, that Aiyuk ticked off Daniels to some extent. And that's especially noteworthy because there was this intense debate among Washington fans and media members about whether the back and forth was legit, whether the back and forth, as I said on this podcast on episode 1362, in pro wrestling terms, was a work or a shoot. But something else that I suggested on that episode was that the back and forth may not have been as simple as fake or legit. May not have been as simple as work or shoot. The back and forth could have been a work that turned into a shoot. Could have been a shoot that turned into a work. In other words, maybe one guy was kidding, but the other was not. Maybe the two started off as kidding, but then things took a serious turn. Maybe the two started off as kidding, and then Daniels got annoyed with Aiyuk. Who knows? It would be interesting to know if Daniels has returned Aiyuk's call. Remember, Aiyuk on July 8th on Instagram posted multiple videos, including a video in which he asked for a call from Daniels. Aiyuk in the video said that he had called Daniels, but that Daniels had not answered. We also, in recent days, have had this. ESPN NFL insider Jeremy Fowler on ESPN's NFL Live this past Monday afternoon saying that he does not think that Washington will be acquiring Brandon Aiyuk. Fowler was talking about unrestricted free agent receiver Stephon Diggs. Here was Fowler with host Laura Rutledge.
All right, so we're throwing out all these teams, but Jeremy, what are you actually hearing about the interest on Diggs?
Yeah, Laura, I'm hearing he's going to have a market closer to training camp. I was told that at least 5 teams that need a wide receiver have been checking in. Now, they got to deal with some of the baggage and the headlines. They are what they are. But here's why Stephon Diggs, I'm told, is confident. He had 1,000-plus yards last year, really playing on a snap count of around 55% of the snaps coming off an ACL. He feels he's going to be better this time around. I'm looking to the DMV, Laura. That's where he's from. Commanders certainly need a receiver. I think they're looking for more of a speed option at this point. We'll see. There are several veterans they could look at. I don't think it's going to be Brandon Aiyuk at this stage.
Right.
And the Baltimore Ravens, they have really made a living at times signing retread receivers,
right,
veterans who are accomplished, who are in their 30s, who can come in and help.
Yeah, you mentioned it. Diggs, the Maryland native. He played 3 seasons for the Terrapins before being drafted in 2015.
Okay, so that obviously was mostly about Stephon Diggs, but Jeremy Fowler said of Washington and Brandon Aiyuk, quote, "I don't think it's going to be Brandon Aiyuk at this stage," end quote. Now, I have noticed that for some Washington fans and for some Washington media members, the Brandon Aiyuk saga has become a source of annoyance and or frustration and or anger. And maybe this is just me, but I, as both a Washington fan and Washington media member, have never gotten overly emotional or overly invested in this saga for 2 main reasons. A, I have taken comfort from the reality that Washington has multiple people who should have intel on where Brandon Aiyuk is at physically and mentally and what truly has happened between him and the Niners. Quarterback Jaden Daniels, general manager Adam Peters, offensive assistant Wes Welker, running backs coach Anthony Lynn. All 4 have extensive past with Aiyuk. Peters, Welker, and Lynn also have extensive past with the Niners. Whatever Washington does regarding Aiyuk should/will be based on intel on the truth about what has gone on here. B, Brandon Aiyuk is not Washington's problem. He is a player on the San Francisco 49ers. He is not a player on the Washington Commanders. His relevance to Washington is predicated on his connections to multiple people with the team and his desire to play for the team and the team having a perceived need at receiver. But he is not Washington's problem. This is not Washington's issue. This is not Washington's responsibility. And so I'm not getting all worked up about this in any way. If somehow he gets released by the Niners and Washington believes that it's worth it to sign him to a 1-year low-money, low-risk contract because of the upside, okay, fine. The team will be doing so based on knowledge that the rest of us don't have. And if Washington wants nothing to do with this guy, that's fine too. And more, it is looking like the latter may well be the case. Hey, whatever big event that you're planning, a wedding, a party, a corporate gathering, consider using a great sponsor of this podcast, Catering by Uptown. Visit cateringbyuptown.com and make sure that you mention that Al Galdi sent you. Catering by Uptown is outstanding. It is a family business. It is run by the Pereiras, who are great Washington Commanders fans. Catering by Uptown will provide you and your event with excellent service. Catering by Uptown staff on the day of your event is the first to arrive and last to leave and is fully prepared to offer quality, variety, and abundance, prepared to execute the plan that you and Catering by Uptown created together. Catering by Uptown's specialty is weddings. Get excellent service at an affordable price. In fact, if you visit cateringbyuptown.com and click on venues, you can check out Catering by Uptown's premier wedding venues. Visit cateringbyuptown.com and make sure that you mention that Al Galdi sent you. That's cateringbyuptown.com and make sure that you mention that Al Galdi sent you. Life insurance. You and your family hopefully never need it, but not having it can make a tragic situation even worse. We have a family friend who lost her husband to cancer. Him not having life insurance made the ensuing years even more difficult. Well, Ethos makes getting life insurance fast and easy, 100% online. You can get a quote in seconds, apply in minutes, and get same-day coverage. There's no medical exam. You'll just answer a few simple health questions. You can get up to $3 million in coverage. Some policies are as low as $30 a month. You'll get your lowest rate from Ethos' network of trusted carriers. And know this, Ethos has a rating of 4.8 out of 5 stars on Trustpilot with over 4,000 reviews. Take 10 minutes today to get covered with life insurance through Ethos. Get your free quote at ethos.com/Al Galdi. That's ethos.com/Al Galdi. Ethos.com/Al Galdi. Application times may vary. Rates may vary. Trustpilot rating as of June 1st, 2025.
From lashes for days with the viral Liquid Lash Extensions mascara to awakening your eyes with lift and color from the Brilliant Eye Brightener, Thrive Cosmetics is the go-to when you want to amplify your everyday look. Plus, every product is 100% vegan, cruelty-free, and made with clean, skin-loving ingredients that work with your skin. And for every product purchased, Thrive Cosmetics donates to help communities thrive. So every time you use your favorite Thrive Cosmetics product, you're helping communities you care about too. Amplify your everyday. Go to thrivecosmetics.com/shine26 for an exclusive offer of 20% off your first order. That's Thrive Cosmetics, CAUSEMETICS.com/shine26.
So the post-All-Star break portion of MLB's 2026 regular season begins on Friday. The Washington Nationals are 48-49 with a run differential of +7 and are 4 games behind the Miami Marlins for the National League's third of 3 wildcard spots. The Baltimore Orioles are 46-51 with a run differential of -19 and yet are 2 games behind the Seattle Mariners and Minnesota Twins for the American League's third of 3 wildcard spots. Yeah, the O's are closer to a playoff spot than the Nats are. That's how bad the American League is. The Nats this weekend have a 3-game series at the Athletics at Sutter Health Park in West Sacramento, California. The Nats have listed the following starting pitchers as probables for the series. Game 1 Friday night at 9:40, Cade Cavalli. Game 2 Saturday night at 10:05, Zach Littell. Game 3 Sunday afternoon at 4:05, Foster Griffin. The O's this weekend have a 3-game series at the Houston Astros. So the O's have listed the following starting pitchers as probables for the series. Game 1 Friday night at 8:10, Dean Kramer. Game 2 Saturday afternoon at 4:10, Trevor Rogers. Game 3 Sunday afternoon at 2:10, Kyle Bradish. By the way, bravo, Foster Griffin. Nats starting pitcher Foster Griffin, terrific in the National League's 4-0 loss to the American League in the 2026 MLB All-Star Game at Citizens Bank Park in Philadelphia this past Tuesday night. A perfect top of the 5th with 2 swinging strikeouts. He threw just 10 pitches. What a job by Foster Griffin. Now, the Nats, the next night, this past Wednesday night, announced having signed the player who they this past Saturday afternoon took with the number 11 overall pick in the 2026 MLB First-Year Player Draft, second baseman Chris Hacopian out of Texas A&M University. And the Nats signed him below slot value. He, per report, signed for $5.7 million. MLB's designated slot value for that number 11 overall pick in this draft was $6.1335 million. We'll see if this is part of a strategy that the Nats employed in the 2025 draft, signing the first-round pick at below slot value in order to spend more on picks later in the draft. The Nats did this with picks in last year's draft. Also, some roster updates for the Nats. They, on Tuesday afternoon, announced that relief pitcher Matt Crook, who the Nats this past Sunday morning announced as having designated for assignment, had cleared outright waivers and had been assigned outright to Triple-A Rochester. However, the Nats also announced that Crook, as a player with a prior outright assignment, had the option to declare free agency in lieu of accepting the assignment to Triple-A Rochester, and that he did in fact declare free agency. So Matt Crook is gone. The Nats on Wednesday morning announced that they had returned relief pitcher Max Kranick from his minor league rehab assignment and had reinstated him from the 60-day injured list. So he now is a relief pitching option for the relief pitching star of Nats. The Nats on May 5th announced having agreed with Kranick as a free agent on a 1-year major league contract with a club option for the 2027 season, and announced having placed Kranick on the 15-day injured list due to recovery from right elbow surgery. Kranick has a history of elbow problems. He underwent Tommy John surgery on his right elbow in June 2022 and underwent right flexor tendon surgery in July 2025. And the Nats on May 25th announced having transferred Kranick to the 60-day injured list. And the Nats on Wednesday morning announced having placed catcher Drew Millis on the 10-day injured list, retroactive to July 12th, due to a left index fracture, marking the first time this season that the Nats have placed a position player on an injured list. One of the most underrated aspects of the Nats' surprising success this season has been their great injury luck with position players, that the team this season did not end up putting a position player on an injured list until the All-Star break is amazing. And we on Wednesday afternoon had reports that the Nats are calling up catcher Harry Ford from Triple-A Rochester. The Nats this past December 6th announced having traded lefty reliever Jose A. Ferrer to the Seattle Mariners for 2 prospects, a catcher Harry Ford and right-handed pitcher Isaac Lyon. Ford, at the time of the trade, was the number 42 overall prospect in baseball per MLB Pipeline, and was the number 74 overall prospect in baseball per Baseball America. He was taken by the Mariners with the number 12 overall pick in the 2021 MLB Draft out of a high school in Georgia. This is Ford's age 23 season. He, for Triple-A Rochester this season, has an OPS of just 705, but that does include him having an OPS of 911 since June 1st. Going to be interesting to see how much he plays. The Nats' number 1 catcher, K-Bit Ruiz, is having a surprisingly good season. He, for this regular season, has an OPS of 767. And another item with the Nats in recent days, the team on Thursday afternoon announced having traded outfielder Robert Hassel III to the Pittsburgh Pirates in exchange for cash considerations or a player to be named later. The Nats on Sunday morning, July 5th, announced having designated Hassel for assignment. And then we this past Sunday afternoon, July 12th, learned that Hassel surprisingly had cleared waivers and had been assigned outright to Triple-A Rochester. We thought that he was staying with the Nats organization. Not so. He's now gone, and the Nats basically have given him away. I mean, you can't be traded for less than cash considerations or a player to be named later, and you just hope that the Nats don't regret this. Robert Hassel III is one of the 6 players who the Nats got from the San Diego Padres in the mega trade of outfielder Juan Soto and first baseman Josh Bell to the Padres on August 2nd, 2022, what was 2022 MLB trade deadline day. Hassel, at the time of the trade, was the number 21 overall prospect in baseball per MLB Pipeline. The Padres took him with the number 8 overall pick in the 2020 MLB First-Year Player Draft out of a high school in Tennessee. As for the O's, they on Wednesday afternoon announced that relief pitcher Keegan Akin on Wednesday underwent successful left elbow reconstruction with Dr. Keith Meister in Arlington, Texas. Keith Meister, a renowned doctor regarding elbow reconstruction. So Akin is done for the season. The O's on June 29th announced having placed Akin on the 15-day injured list retroactive to June 28th due to left elbow discomfort. The O's this past Monday morning, July 13th, announced having transferred Akin to the 60-day injured list so that he ended up needing left elbow reconstruction. Not shocking, but yet more bad injury news for the O's. Another reliever who had been on the 60-day injured list, Yurmil Geraldo, did just come off it. The O's on July 11th announced having reinstated Geraldo from the 60-day IL and having optioned him to Triple-A Norfolk. Also, the O's on June 27th announced having activated starting pitcher Cade Povich from the 60-day IL and having optioned him to Double-A Chesapeake, and he's now pitching for Triple-A Norfolk. But the O's, in this third consecutive season of being hit hard by injury, currently have the following guys on injured list. Third baseman / second baseman Jordan Westberg, first baseman Ryan Mountcastle, infielder / outfielder Blaze Alexander, as the O's on Thursday night announced having put Alexander on the 10-day injured list retroactive to July 13th due to a left-hand fracture. Starting pitchers Chris Bassett and Zach Eflin, and relief pitchers Felix Bautista, Ryan Helsley, Keegan Akin, and Colin Selby. And Westberg, Eflin, and Akin are done for the season, each due to elbow surgery of some kind. And that'll do it for you and me for now, but there's more to come. Monday's show, episode 1369. We'll have a lot for you on the Washington Commanders. Also on Monday's show, I'll talk Washington Nationals and Baltimore Orioles. The Nats this weekend have a 3-game series at the Athletics at Sutter Health Park in West Sacramento, California. The O's this weekend have a 3-game series at the Houston Astros. Have a great weekend, and I'll talk to you on Monday.
These videos, they come on, and he's criticizing his former college teammate, Jaden Daniels. Everybody thought he was going to Washington. It was set up for him to go to Washington, and it certainly looks like he's alienated Washington